Practice tips, hot practice tips from the trench. Still in the trench and loving the trench. All right, this is a practice tip if you see a lot of families, which hopefully you do. Most people that follow me are more family oriented. So what happens a lot of times is that you're going to be who they look up to for a lot of health information. And that's why I do all the different workshops in my office. And again, the favorite one that I think I love to do the most is the vaccination one. But a lot of times when people get pregnant, which happens when they're under chiropractic care, I like to give them a gift. I mean, Tim O'Shea, who wrote the book that I'm going to recommend, says you should charge him. But I like to give people gifts, especially if they've been following through with their care and they're great people to take care of. And if you know they're going to read it. Now, I have 2 books that I give to, like, rather than giving them like a box of diapers or, I don't know what you give, you could give them like a DCS t-shirt if you wanted to. Sometimes I do that too. We have the little DCS onesies. But I like to give them a book about vaccines, and then I tell them I'm going to give them the book, but then I'm going to ask, and I start asking them questions. Have you read it? You want to make sure that they read it. And then after they read it, you want them to pass it on to somebody else, okay, that's going to read it. And what I do in the book, okay, there's 2 books. This book is if somebody's really on your side, you can give them Tim's book, Vaccination is Not Immunization. I think it's the best book ever written on vaccines, hands down. We have some here. You can order them from us, or you can get them from Tim O'Shea directly. His website is thedoctorwithin.com. This is another great book. The reason I like this book is because it's a more doper. It's written by an MD. So people are going to have a tendency to believe a more doper more than a DC, which is a doctor of cause. This book also talks about that he, I think, has delivered 35,000 babies in his clinic, and they've never ever had 1 case of autism because they don't vaccinate either, which is a pretty good statistic. I mean, I don't know if it's double blind, but it's clinically it sounds pretty darn good statistic. So today's tip is to give people gifts in your practice. One of the gifts we give to the pregnant moms or the pregnant parents is a book on vaccination, and you just don't give it to them. You give it to them and you ask them questions about what they've read, what they're learning, because if you don't ask them questions, they're not going to read it. This book is super easy to read. This book's super easy to read. This book is, he's one of my favorite authors on the planet, but he can be a little bit like me, a little bit more in your face than Dr. Eisenstein is. Practice tip. And then also, last before we go, this is super important. They're going to be sending that book out, and because you want to make sure that they give it to a friend when they're done. That's part of the deal. And then inside the book, you have your name, your address, and phone number on there, and then your little whatever your logo is. So if you have a cougar logo, you're going to put your cougar logo right there. We have a rhino, so we put the rhino there. See you next visit at the Practice Tips from the Trench. Billy D, in closing, real quick, I just want to thank you all for viewing, but also if you liked it, make sure you like it. Also, if you would want to keep getting this, you could also subscribe to our channel, The DCS Experience. And we are looking for some sponsors out there, so if you know anybody that, I mean, we don't see a ton of people, but we see a good fraction of the chiropractic profession, so if you want to get your product out to a lot of potential, usually high volume, highly successful chiropractors, this would be a great way to do it, and they're on the internet forever! Signing off.